Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends, to the Wednesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. If you are joining us today, we have a treat for you coming up. The chairman of the RNC will be joining us. Now, some of you will be delighted. Others of you who, let's say this, have been rather disappointed in the RNC over the years might say, well, why? We're going to see if today's RNC is the RNC of old. That's what I'm going to ask. One of the things I intend to ask the chairman, Michael Whatley, who, by the way, is not one of these never-Trumpers. He has been in President Trump's corner for years. So I'm looking forward to catching up with him. Of course, there is so much news that continues to happen. I said yesterday that you would not believe, you would believe it, the rhetoric that Democrats are using and liberals all over the country regarding 59 people that entered the United States of America, and that outrage continues. We have the social media influencers are now getting involved. Also, some commentators, well known, for instance, a man that Donald Trump, he had some unflattering titles for, in the past has weighed in. That would be Don Lemon and others. But before we get to any of that, something I think unusual happened. Very unusual in Congress today. A Democrat, a member of the Democrat Party, stood on the House floor and said this, cut 3, it is Ro Khanna.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to introduce as legislation President Trump's executive order for the most favored nation status on drug pricing. My legislation will codify President Trump's executive order, which basically says that Americans should not pay more for drugs than people in other countries and other parts of the world. Right now, we're paying 2 to 3 times more for our drugs than people in other industrialized nations. Now, this executive order, codified by the legislation, will allow our cabinet secretaries to put pressure on Big Pharma and make sure that they are not price gouging, and will allow for the importation of cheaper drugs. So you ask, why do we need the legislation? Because the reality is that Big Pharma will sue for the executive order like they did in the previous Trump administration. And in the previous administration, they managed to kill the executive order. The only way we can stand up to Big Pharma is to codify in legislation what the president wants to do in an executive order. So here's the deal. If I can cross the aisle and support President Trump's executive order in legislation, every Republican should be willing to cross the aisle and support my legislation. It's a pretty simple test. Are we going to stand in this body with the $16 billion that Big Pharma spent on lobbying? Or are we going to stand with the American people? We will know that answer based on how many co-sponsors we get for my legislation that simply codifies Donald Trump's executive order.
Well, now, I'm sure that there are some political things happening behind the scenes with this. But this is unusual. This is the first time, I think, in almost with all of the years that we have been following Donald Trump and the TDS. Now, someone correct me if I'm wrong, Princess Di, if you want to, or Lady Benedict, or you, ladies and gentlemen, correct me. This is the first time I have heard a Democrat stand up in the House and just unapologetically, without any hesitation, say, oh, yep, something Donald Trump did, we need to get behind. And this is a big deal if this happens. And by the way, this move to codify into law the executive orders is something that needs to be part of the entire Republican agenda for many of the executive orders that Donald Trump has given. They need to be codified into law so that a subsequent election cannot change them, so that it would take a vote from Congress to change some of the things that Donald Trump has implemented. For instance, getting rid of DEI out of the federal government completely, stopping state-sponsored discrimination from the federal government needs to be codified into law. Some of the changes that Donald Trump has made to the American military need to be codified into law. After we get trade deals in, and some of the trade deals are completed, they need to be codified into law. This is a big deal. I can't claim to know all of the ramifications yet. There's always something. I've learned over the years, when things sound good in Congress, and especially if there's a Democrat involved, usually there's a catch somewhere. So I'm going to say, yes, this is unusual. This sounds good. I will be looking into it further. But so far, it sounds very, very good. Now, you have other Democrats that are totally TDS. I mentioned the South African thing. The left is going nuts on that. Let's check in, for instance, give you an example of what is taking place on social media, beginning with the ex-CNN anchor, Don Lemon. Yes, that would be the one, and the one and only Don Lemon.
This South African farmer bullshit, which is the most blatantly obvious racist ever. It is blatantly obvious the way that we treat white South Africans, who, by the way, for the most part, and I am generalizing here, some of the wealthiest people are well-to-do people in the country. They speak their language. They own most of the land and the property. And somehow they're being granted a fast track to become Americans while they're trying to cut down on immigration from other countries. You know, you get that from where? From the brown people. On March 7th, Trump took to Truth Social to announce he is offering white South African farmers, quote, a rapid pathway to U.S. citizenship, pointing out that South Africa's new land reform push signed into law last year, which lets the government take land without compensation if the property is not being used and there's no intention to either develop or make money from it. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you some context here. They're not just taking land away from white South African farmers. White South Africans, about 9% of the population, owned 87% of the fertile land. Okay? Today, black South Africans make up more than 90% of the population, and they only hold about 4% of all privately owned land. So what they're trying to do is say, hey, we need to fix an historical injustice and figure out if you're not using that land to farm, then we need to have some of that land, not taking all of your entire farm. That's not what's happening. And we need to what? There needs to be equity. And now people are crying because the playing field is being leveled. And so therefore it is now discrimination.
All right. Look, as I said yesterday, I have mixed feelings, which are emotional, and mixed thoughts, which are not, over policy with South Africa. I think the regimes of South Africa in the past have been horrendous. Apartheid was horrendous. I saw some conservatives this week slamming the ANC as a bunch of commies. They are commies. They are commies. But the reason the ANC has a history of being a bunch of commies is because when black civil rights advocates in America and their counterparts, the people of South Africa, reached out to the United States of America during the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and asked for help for their quest for freedom. The United States stuck the middle finger up at them. And the Ruskies, back then the old Soviet Union, said, hey, we'll support you. Yeah, they're commies. The communists came to the rescue of people who were desperate. When the United States both, and this goes beyond, to me, politics, because it was Republican administrations and Democrat administrations who totally turned on the black people of South Africa and just told them to get lost. I'm sorry. That's the way I look at history. Again, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, please. I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong. It was, by the way, members of the entertainment industry that put a lot of pressure on South Africa, and some of them refused to perform while apartheid was going on. So yeah, there are a lot of ill feelings, but let's be honest about South Africa. Ever since apartheid was abolished, we had Nelson Mandela. World was so pleased, proud. Yes, Nelson Mandela. I will not say anything ever negative about Nelson Mandela. Not going to do it. But let's be real about South Africa under black governance. It has been a disaster in so many ways. Not all ways, not everything. But the crime problems are there in South Africa. The problems that continue to exist for the black majority population of the country they're having a difficult time. Yes, apartheid is gone, and good. But South Africa is no paradise. And with these calls right now, and they are calls, we'll play it as many times as we have to play it, from the leaders that are calling for the death of white people in South Africa, for the death of the Boer, the farmers in South Africa. And by the way, this system of apartheid in South Africa was heinous. And if you go back and you look at the connection of the British and some of the others in the Boer Wars, Winston Churchill was over there in the Boer Wars. You look at what, it wasn't just America, it wasn't just the native black people. They treated the Indian, the brown-skinned Indians in South Africa miserably too. This whole color thing. You're not the same shade of pigmentation me. This whole evil that has been part of South Africa, and in fact been part of American, European, African history, my God, we have got to get past this if humanity is ever going to have a chance to raise itself to the level that it should be. But this thing in South Africa runs deep, and there are a lot of things wrong in South Africa. But when you see 59 people coming here and this outrage that these Democrats are having, and you contrast with 11 million people that came into the United States illegally, and Democrats didn't say a peep. Don Lemon, the rest of them never jumped out on social media cursing, spewing mad because who knows who of those 11 million were coming here with bad intentions. There's a lot of hypocrisy all the way around here. James Golden, Bo Snerdley here. Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Don't you dare go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Princess Diana has weighed in. She said she did a quick search, cannot find another Trump executive order that a Democrat has supported with legislation. Princess Diana also says she thinks this is a fantastic thing that Ro Khanna did. It's the best way to shame the recalcitrant GOP. Amen to that. We keep wondering, what are they doing at the GOP? In Congress, what's happening? And Lady Benedict weighs in. Got to hand it to Ro Khanna. This was brilliant. When we get back, we're going to be speaking with the chairman of the Republican National Committee. I cannot wait to introduce him to you, to have a chat with him about some of the things that are happening in this momentous presidency and what we should expect from Republicans as a party. Stay with us. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
In 2009, so 2010, they passed the stimulus bill under the Obama era, and then you had 1.2 trillion in the last Congress, and so that's $2 trillion over 10 years. And sometimes you look around the country and go, "Where did $2 trillion go? Where is all the infrastructure? Why don't we have more?" And I think it does. A lot of this money gets eaten up in again, the permitting and the consultants. And I want to see more of the money go, to turn dirt. That's what we have to focus on. And if we do that, I think there should be money for all of our projects. But if it gets eaten up just by the consultant class, all of us lose. All of our communities lose because you don't have the resources to build your bridge that can't take a busload of kids.
Yeah, that's Sean Duffy. Yeah, where did those trillions of dollars go? Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are so pleased to have on Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour the chairman of the RNC, Michael Whatley. And you don't know. I have a smile on my face saying that. And I'm just going to be frank with you. Welcome, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
I'm doing great. It is great to be on with you, sir.
I'm just going to be honest with you. If this were a few years back, number one, I would not have the chairman of the RNC on because there was such a visceral dislike for the RNC for many quarters of the base. And you and it and things have changed. So welcome. And that visceral dislike came because people saw the Republican Party, many in the Republican Party, not supporting President Trump during his first term. They saw what they believed, you can say rightly or wrongly, that members of the party, including the former speaker and others, had political knives in his back the entire term. And there was a real schism in this party. That schism at least does not exist right now, and part your leadership, not only in North Carolina, where you served as the chairman of the Republican Party there, but ever since the Ronna McDaniel days are over, now you're at the RNC. What is it like at the RNC right now, sir?
Well, it is a great place to be right now because we have President Trump, we have a Republican House and a Republican Senate that are all focused on an America First agenda. And we are working on the big, beautiful bill. And we are seeing the president's trade policies that are being enacted from the administration. We are seeing his regulatory relief agenda being enacted out throughout the country through the cabinet with all of the different officers, the departments and agencies. So what we're seeing right now is what Donald Trump said we were going to do when he won. And it's a great thing to see promises made, promises kept.
I want to play two things for you. First, cut one, Carlos. Today, Wolf Blitzer, of all people, on CNN, of all places, had this report on inflation.
Wallet. U.S. inflation slowing, I should say, to its lowest rate in more than 4 years. That, according to April's Consumer Price Index report. It's an unexpected and very welcome development that's defying economists' expectations amid President Trump's ongoing trade war. Let's go live right now to CNN business and politics correspondent Vanessa Yurkevich, who's watching all of this in New York. Vanessa, walk us through this morning's report. Where do things stand?
Encouraging signs, Wolf. Inflation continuing to move in the right direction, cooling on an annual basis to 2.3%.
And so you had that report coming in from CNN. Then you had Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the House in the Democrat Party. He was asked about China trade. This is Hakeem Jeffries.
If you are the Chinese, what have you learned about the art of the deal?
China punked the administration, and the administration backed down. That's no surprise because we've seen that happen over and over and over again.
And he went on to say that the prices everywhere are going up, not down, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got things happening. We've got the trade. We've got inflation. What is your view of, first of all, where we are with the trade deals, not only with China? I thought it was interesting. Jen Psaki the other day was mocking Donald Trump for having no deals. Within hours, we had a deal with Great Britain, and now, of course, this breakthrough that's happened with China. And then you have reports of the economy where the media has been trying to scare everyone to death, the mainstream press saying there's a recession coming or is basically appearing on the horizon. Your thoughts, Mr. Chairman? Oh. So is the chairman there or not? Well, we lost the chairman on the line. We're looking to get him back, ladies and gentlemen. But we've heard from, as I said, Hakeem Jeffries and from Wolf Blitzer on this inflation thing. We'll let you know when the chairman rejoins us. We're trying to reach him right now. In the meantime, I want to just point out, the chairman mentioned this giant, great, big, beautiful bill. And that's something else that I want to talk with him about. We have headlines today that there is infighting with Republicans on the Medicare part of it, Medicaid. A GOP civil war breaking out with Medicaid, supposedly. Over supposedly deeper cuts, fiscal hawks lashing out at what they say the lack of Medicaid reforms in President Trump's legislative package. The gripes are from conservatives, centered on the House Energy and Commerce Committee portion of the sprawling, big, beautiful bill. They don't go far enough, says Eric Burleson of Missouri. Hardliners, such as Burleson, are unconvinced. They say the CBO scoring is not accurate, that we need deeper cuts. Another person calling for deeper cuts in Medicaid, Ralph Norman, South Carolina, says the bill needs some substantial changes. He's not flexing. The math has to be right in order to get the country back on track. And another Republican, Warren Davison, Ohio, disappointed that he says there are a lot of delays. These are hollow promises. They'll be cutting things, they say, in 4 years, this, that, and the other, but they're not cut. We don't have, no. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break so that when we do get him back, we can spend as much time with him as purely possible. James Golden, Snerdley with you here. It is Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Keep it right here. Do not go away. Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Today's the birthday of Vic Flick. What a great name. The English studio guitarist who's playing this riff in the James Bond theme. Also, another birthday today. American singer, songwriter, Bobby Darin. Of course, his big ones, Mac the Knife and Beyond the Sea. Time's running short. The chairman is back with us. Chairman Whatley. Sorry we lost you there. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, sorry about the technical issues there.
No worries. Let's talk. So we were talking inflation. CNN reports great inflation numbers. Hakeem Jeffries poo-poos it. Costs are going up everywhere. And China has punked the United States. China has punked the Trump administration on trade. I don't see how that's possible that you could think that, but he does. What do you say, Chairman?
Well, I would say he's living in an alternate reality. The fact is that grocery prices are down, housing prices are down, gasoline prices are down, inflation is down. It's really hard to look at that economic report with all of the jobs that have been created, 400,000 plus, since President Trump came into office, and say that we're having bad problems. You know, the Democrats have lied and said that the trade is going to raise prices. It has not raised prices. In fact, we are seeing them come down in all of the major areas that consumers care about.
Okay, now let me just ask you a few other things. The big bill. There's a report today in the Hill that Republicans are having they're not a unified caucus when it comes to this bill. Some are calling for deeper cuts in Medicaid than are in there. Of course, the idea of cutting Medicaid is something that the Democrats are going to run on without ever mentioning how deeply it was expanded into areas that it never should have been under previous administrations. At the same time, Governor Newsom out in California has done an about-face today, said that their state Medicare bill, they're trying to reel it in, Medi-Cal, because the cost of providing free health care to illegal immigrants is pretty much bankrupting that plan. So where are we at with this big, beautiful bill and Republican support for it?
Yeah, Republicans are completely unified, understanding that they need to get this bill to the president's desk, and we are working through the House committee process right now, and then we're going to have it on the floor. And the Speaker has committed to getting that bill done as quickly as possible and over to the Senate. Senator Thune has said that he's going to get this bill done as soon as he gets it from the Senate or from the House. So, look, the Republicans are completely unified in understanding this bill must get done, right? The only thing that we're really seeing from the Democrats right now is 100% certainty that 100% of the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats are going to vote for the largest tax increase in American history, because this bill is going to prevent that from going in, and the Democrats are totally opposed to it. So, we feel very good. Now, there's a lot of process that we're going to go through, and there's going to be deals, and there's going to be, pieces that are going to be worked on. But everybody on the Republican side of the aisle, the House, the Senate, and President Trump, knows we're going to get this bill done, and we're going to bring it to the American people.
I opened today's show with a soundbite from a Democrat, which is unusual, Ro Khanna, who rose to codify President Trump's executive order concerning most favored nation status for dealing with pharmaceutical drugs. This is the first time I think we have ever seen in either of the Trump administrations a Democrat take the lead and say this needs to become law. Is the party going to focus on some of the other executive orders that this president has put his signature on and make sure that they are codified as well, so that these changes that are happening across America aren't temporary and dependent on a future election?
Yes, absolutely, yes. On the big, beautiful bill, we're going to have provisions in there regarding the southern border. We know that President Trump was able to close that border through executive action, but we don't want anybody else to open it up later. We're also going to have the energy provisions that are going to be codified in there. And the House and the Senate will absolutely come back and codify others. This is going to be a high priority, right? This is, it's the president's agenda, but it's also the Republican agenda, and it's an American agenda, that we want to see a strong economy, a strong border. We want to get, woke out of schools. We want boys out of girls' sports and men out of women's locker rooms. And we want to make sure that we're going to be strong everywhere in the world.
All right, we have just limited time right now, and I'm going to invite you back because we need to talk further. But let me ask you a question. And look, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. If I am, I'm sorry. As soon as I got word that you were coming on and we talked about it, I started getting text from some of my dearest friends who were highly involved. And one of them, many of us left the Republican Party the moment the Trumps graced that escalator. We've never looked back. And another every day confirms that decision. There was a rift between the base, the conservative base, and the RNC. What can you say to those people who felt very disenfranchised by their own party apparatus at the RNC?
Yeah, Donald Trump has completely remade the Republican Party. We are absolutely the party right now of common sense. We are the party that is fighting for every family, fighting for every community. We are a conservative party. This is Donald Trump's home. And this is, an America First party. And, this movement that he has unleashed is going to last beyond these next 4 years. We're going to need, to make sure that we have an America First House, an America First Senate, and we're going to be America First in all 50 states as well.
You say we're going to be America First in all 50 states. Let me ask you about that. You look at states like California and other states, especially Colorado. Some interesting craziness is happening in Colorado. But you look all up and down, especially the West Coast states, California, Oregon, not that many electoral votes there, but still, Washington State. Is the Republican Party going to play dead there because the numbers are not favorable, and the thinking is, why throw good money after bad and work in those states? Or is there an opportunity in those states to actually grow the party? A lot of people there are starting to understand what it means to live under the kind of oppressive governments that their citizens have been living under.
Yeah, well, look, I think the fact is that we've got to do better as a party in every state around the country. It takes three things to win a close election, right? You got to have a great candidate who runs a great race. You got to get out the vote. You got to protect the ballot. We at the RNC are going to be very, very focused on getting out the vote and protecting the ballot and making sure that we're going to support Republican candidates all across the country. We've got state parties in all 50 states plus territories. That we're working every day to make those parties better. We're making investments around the country. But at the same time, when we have a presidential race like we did last year, and we know it's going to come down to 7 states, our investments were made in those 7 states. And we were making sure that we were going to win Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And we did not make investments in those other states at that same level because we knew if Donald Trump won them, he was going to win the White House. And if he won the White House, we'd have a Republican House and a Republican Senate. So there's obviously a lot of work that we're going to continue to be doing. But the Republican Party is the American Party. We're the America First Party. We're the common sense party. And everybody in this country wants a strong economy. They want lower gasoline, grocery, and housing prices. They want to make sure that we're going to be strong around the world. We're going to be respected around the world. We're going to have trade policies that are going to be fair to America. And we're seeing shifts in the Black community, the Hispanic community, the Asian American community, young voters, women voters, who all understand, that with Donald Trump and Republicans, we're going to understand their issues, put solutions on the table, and fight for them every day.
Wow. Okay, you have to come back, please, because I want to talk to you about those very things, and especially about what people can do to make sure that this is a very successful midterm election coming up. So will you do that? Will you join us again?
I will absolutely do that. I appreciate it and really enjoy the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you so much. That's Chairman Michael Watley of the RNC. James Golden, ladies and gentlemen, Bo Snerdley here. The fastest hour in American media. We didn't even get to the stuff I wanted to get to today with South Africa. We'll get to that tomorrow. Keep it right here. May God bless and protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude always, my friends, for your being here with me and allowing me to be with you. God willing, we are back tomorrow, this very station, and look forward to having you along. Until then, my friends, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?